Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe. Enjoy watching. Please subscribe.
1957 Harley-Davidson Sportster. No list of motorcycles is worth one salt if it doesn't mention good old Harley-Davidson. It's the one manufacturer that just about everyone in the world can name, but they have certainly earned their reputation over the decades. The Harley-Davidson Sportster came on the scene in 1957, and it's still in production today. It came with a 45-degree V-twin engine that gave it a top speed of 100 miles per hour, but it was a smaller body that helped give the Sportster its lasting appeal. It was easier and more comfortable to ride for people with smaller frames, and it was especially a hit with the women, who became pioneers in racing. And the iconic shape of the handlebars gives the rider that lazy lean-back look, like they have nowhere to be. The Sportster may not have been the fastest motorcycle of the day, but it certainly made Harley-Davidson an American staple of quality engineering and ingenuity. 1962 Norton Manx. The 1950s and 60s were the heydays of the Grand Prix, but top-notch motorcycles were often unaffordable and less accessible for a lot of the teams. That's where the 1962 Norton Manx enters the fray. It quickly rose to prominence, being used by some of the top racers of the day, and today it is the quintessential British racer. The design was so popular, in fact, that many independent manufacturers continue to imitate it, and who could blame them? It has an incredibly sleek look with a long body that sits nice and low to the ground. It came with a 500cc single-cylinder engine with 60 horsepower and went up to 142 miles an hour. This was the final version of the Manx Racer. This model has literally hundreds of race wins under its belt. And the best part is, if you have the cash, you can still score one of these speedsters for around 50 grand if you do some digging online. 1969 Honda CB750. Despite the tragedies suffered in Japan during World War II, the land of the rising sun was able to become an engineering and auto giant, and the 1969 Honda CB750 was the manufacturer's first big hit. The onset of the CB750 essentially dethroned the British and their monopoly on motorcycles by creating the four-cylinder bikes that still dominate the market. Often referred to as the Universal Japanese Motorcycle, or UJM for short, the CB750 was also one of the founding bikes in what is now considered superbike racing. The Japanese bike was quickly introduced to the US markets and cost about $1,000 less than what most riders were used to shelling out at the time. And while it was cheap to buy, the Japanese didn't skimp on quality. Overall, it is a gorgeous bike, and it's still a common sight on today's streets. It helped to usher in a new era of motorcycle engineering and manufacturing, and the industry is still feeling the ripple effect almost 60 years later. 1969 Honda Z50A Monkey Bike. The same year Honda released their game-changing CB750, they also released the Z50A, more commonly known as the Monkey Bike. The Monkey Bike was originally made to be ridden by children at amusement parks, but as to be expected, the parents ended up having more fun riding them than their children did. Honda decided to produce even more of the tiny motorcycles and ship them over to Europe and the US. It was small, light, and could fit just about everywhere, so even if you're not a serious rider, you could easily get into this model. But was it going to be winning any Grand Prix? Of course not, but the tiny bike still found its way to the racetrack and ended up becoming the vehicle of choice for pit crews, who would zip around quickly and then just throw it in the trunk of a car in between races. The Monkey Bike was also made famous by John Lennon, who was often photographed riding the bike with his son around their estate.